They say a man isn't truly tested until he has lost everything. I should know. I've been broke more times than I care to count. Each time the world looked at me like I was finished. Each time I clawed my way back. Not because I was smarter than the market, but because I learned something most traders never do: how to lose without being destroyed by it. If you are watching this, chances are you've been hit hard. Maybe you've blown through your account. Maybe you've made the same mistake 3, 4, 5 times in a row, and now you are sitting there wondering if you've got what it takes to survive in this game. Let me tell you something. Losing streaks don't just take your money. They take your confidence, your clarity, your belief in yourself. And if you don't know how to rebuild after that kind of devastation, you'll never make it as a trader. I am Jesse Livermore, and I've made millions and lost millions more times than most men will ever see $1,000. But I am still here, and I am going to show you exactly how I came back from the edge. Not just once, but every single time the market tried to bury me. The first thing you need to understand is this: losing is not the problem. Losing while lying to yourself about why you lost, that is what kills you. When I was young, I thought I was invincible. I made money fast, and I convinced myself it was because I was brilliant. Then the market humbled me. It took everything I had, and I was left standing there with empty pockets and a bruised ego. Most traders, when they hit a losing streak, they do one of two things. Either they freeze up completely, too terrified to pull the trigger on another trade, or they go wild, doubling down, chasing losses, trying to win it all back in one desperate swing. Both roads lead to the same place: ruin. I've walked both of them, and I am telling you right now, if you want to rebuild your confidence, you have to resist both of those impulses with everything you've got. 1. Stop trading and let the emotion drain. Here's what I did instead. I stopped completely. When the losses piled up and I could feel that dangerous energy creeping in, that voice telling me I needed to get back in the game right now, that I couldn't afford to wait, I forced myself to walk away. Not forever, just long enough to let the emotion drain out of me. Because emotion, my friend, is the trader's worst enemy. It clouds your judgment. It makes you see patterns that aren't there. It turns you into a gambler instead of a speculator. I'd go days, sometimes weeks, without making a single trade. I'd watch the market, sure. I'd study the tape, observe the price movements, and note the patterns, but I wouldn't touch a thing. And you know what happened during that time? My mind cleared. The desperation faded. I started seeing the market for what it actually was again instead of what I needed it to be. That is the first step in rebuilding confidence. You have to separate yourself from the outcome long enough to think straight again. Now I know what you are thinking. Jesse, I can't afford to wait. I need to get this money back. I understand that feeling. I felt it in my bones. But here is the truth. You can't afford not to wait, because if you jump back in while you are still reeling, while you are still carrying that weight of loss and desperation, you are going to lose again. And this time it'll hurt even worse. The market doesn't care about your bills. It doesn't care about your timeline. It moves according to its own rhythm. And if you are not in sync with that rhythm, you'll get crushed every single time. So step 1 is simple, but it is not easy. Stop trading. Give yourself permission to breathe. Let the noise settle. And while you are sitting there on the sidelines, start doing the real work. The work that actually rebuilds confidence from the ground up. During those periods when I was sitting out, I learned something crucial about the nature of the market and about myself. The market is always there. It is not going anywhere. There will always be another opportunity, another setup, another chance to make money. But if you destroy yourself mentally, emotionally, financially by forcing trades when you are not ready, you won't be around to take advantage of those opportunities when they come. I remember one particular stretch after I'd been wiped out in 1990, devastated. I'd built up a fortune and lost it all in a matter of weeks. The temptation to jump right back in was overwhelming. Every day I'd sit there watching the ticker, seeing stocks move, calculating what I could have made if I'd been in those trades. It was torture, but I knew deep in my gut that I wasn't ready. My judgment was compromised. I was wounded. And wounded animals make mistakes that get them killed. So I waited. I watched. I studied. And slowly, gradually, something shifted inside me. The panic subsided. The desperate need to prove myself began to fade. I started to see the market with clear eyes again. I noticed things I'd been too emotional to see before. The patterns, the rhythms, the way certain stocks moved in relation to others. I was learning again instead of just trying to make money. This waiting period isn't passive. It is not about giving up or running away. It is about strategic retreat. It is about giving yourself the space to heal and to learn. Think of it like a boxer who has taken a beating in the ring. He doesn't jump right back into another fight the next day. He goes back to the gym. He works on his fundamentals. He studies tape of the fight to see where he went wrong. He lets his body recover and his mind sharpen. Only then, when he is truly ready, does he step back into the ring. The same principle applies to trading. You've taken a beating. You need to go back to basics. You need to let yourself recover, and you need to be honest about how long that takes. For some people, it might be a few days. For others, it might be weeks or even months. There is no shame in that. The only shame is in lying to yourself about being ready when you are not. During this time, I also learned to be selective about who I listened to and what I exposed myself to. When you are recovering from losses, you are vulnerable. You are looking for answers, for reassurance, for someone to tell you it is going to be okay. And there are plenty of people out there who will take advantage of that vulnerability. They'll sell you systems, give you hot tips, promise you easy money. Don't listen to them. The only person who can rebuild your confidence is you. And the only way to do it is through honest self-examination and disciplined practice. I also made a point of staying away from other traders during these recovery periods. Not because I didn't value their friendship or respect their opinions, but because when you are in a fragile state, it is too easy to compare yourself to others and come up short. You see someone else making money and you think, why can't I do that? What is wrong with me? But you don't see their losses. You don't see their struggles. You only see the highlight reel. And that comparison will poison your recovery. So I isolated myself in a sense. I focused inward. I asked myself hard questions. What were my real motivations for trading? Was it the money, the excitement, the ego satisfaction of being right? The more honest I was with myself, the clearer things became. And I realized that if I wanted to succeed long-term in this game, I needed to trade for the right reasons, not to prove anything to anyone, not to feed my ego, but because I genuinely understood the market and could read its movements better than most. This period of stillness and reflection is foundational. Without it, everything else I'm going to tell you won't work. You can't build a house on a cracked foundation. You have to repair the foundation first. And that means stopping, breathing, and giving yourself permission to not be in the market until you are truly ready to return with a clear head and a disciplined approach. 2. Analyze your mistakes with brutal honesty. When I was on the sidelines, I didn't just sit around feeling sorry for myself. I went back to basics. I reviewed every single trade I'd made during the losing streak. I wrote them down. I looked at my entry points, my exit points, my reasoning at the time, and I asked myself the hardest question a trader can ask. Was I following my system, or was I winging it? 9 times out of 10, I found the same thing. I'd abandoned my rules. Maybe I got impatient and jumped in before my signal appeared. Maybe I held on to a losing position because I couldn't accept being wrong. Maybe I let one bad trade turn into 3 because I was trying to prove something to myself. Whatever it was, the losses weren't random. They were the result of me stepping outside my discipline. This is where most traders go wrong. They blame the market. They blame bad luck. They blame everything except the one thing they can actually control: themselves. But if you want to rebuild real lasting confidence, you have to own your mistakes. Every single one of them. Because once you own them, you can fix them. And once you fix them, you stop being afraid of them. I started keeping a journal not just of my trades, but of my thoughts and feelings before, during, and after each one. What was I thinking when I entered? Was I calm or anxious? Did I follow my plan or did I improvise? If I lost, why? If I won, was it because I executed well or did I just get lucky? This process was brutal. It forced me to confront the parts of myself I didn't want to see. The impulsiveness, the arrogance, the fear. But it also gave me something invaluable: clarity. I could see the patterns in my behavior, and once I could see them, I could change them. Let me give you a specific example. After one particularly brutal losing streak, I sat down and went through every trade I'd made over the previous 3 months. I laid them all out on paper. Entry price, exit price, the reasoning behind each decision, what I was feeling at the time. And a pattern emerged that I hadn't noticed while I was in the thick of it. I was entering trades too early. I could see the setup forming, and instead of waiting for confirmation, I'd jump in because I was afraid of missing the move. Then when the trade didn't immediately go my way, I'd panic and cut my losses too quickly. Or worse, I'd hold on, hoping it would turn around and end up with an even bigger loss. Once I saw this pattern clearly, I could address it. I created a rule for myself. I would not enter a trade until I saw 3 specific confirmations, not 2, not "it looks pretty good." 3 clear, unmistakable signals that my setup was valid. And I would stick to that rule no matter what. Even if it meant missing some trades, even if it meant watching a stock take off without me, because I knew that my problem wasn't missing opportunities, it was taking bad trades out of impatience. This kind of self-examination requires brutal honesty. You can't sugarcoat things, you can't make excuses. You have to look at your failures and call them what they are. I was impatient. I was undisciplined. I was letting my ego override my judgment. These aren't comfortable things to admit, but they're essential, because until you can name your demons, you can't fight them. Here is what I learned. Confidence doesn't come from winning. It comes from knowing you can trust yourself to follow your rules no matter what. When you've lost big, your trust in yourself is shattered. You second-guess every decision. You hesitate. You override your instincts at the worst possible moments. The only way to rebuild that trust is to prove to yourself, little by little, that you can stick to your system, even when it is uncomfortable, even when it is boring, even when every fiber of your being is screaming at you to do something else. 3. Rebuild with small, controlled trades. So, I started small. I didn't jump back into the market trying to make back everything I'd lost. Instead, I made tiny, controlled trades, positions so small they barely moved the needle financially, but big enough that I had to treat them seriously. And I focused on one thing only: execution. Did I follow my entry rule? Did I follow my exit rule? Did I manage my emotions? If the answer was yes, I considered it a win, regardless of whether I made money. And if the answer was no, I stopped again. I didn't care how long it took. I was rebuilding my foundation brick by brick. This is the part where most traders give up. They want the big win. They want redemption. They want to feel like a champion again. But champions aren't made in one glorious moment. They're made in 1,000 small, unglamorous decisions to do the right thing when nobody's watching. If you can master that, you'll have something more powerful than confidence. You'll have self-respect. And self-respect is what carries you through the next storm. I treated these small trades like a craftsman treats his practice pieces. A master carpenter doesn't just start building houses after a long break. He goes back to his workshop and makes small joints, practices his cuts, gets his hands reacquainted with the tools. That is what I was doing. I was getting my trading hands back. I was relearning the feel of the market, the rhythm of price movements, the discipline of waiting for my setups. And here is something interesting that happened during this process. I started to enjoy trading again. When you are in a losing streak, trading becomes painful. Every decision is fraught with anxiety. Every loss feels like a confirmation that you are no good. But when I was trading small and focusing purely on execution, the pressure was off. I wasn't trying to make back my losses. I wasn't trying to prove anything. I was just practicing my craft. And in that space, I rediscovered why I loved this game in the first place. I also developed a scoring system for myself. At the end of each trading day, I'd give myself a grade, not based on profit and loss, but based on how well I executed my plan. Did I wait for my setups? Did I manage my risk properly? Did I stay emotionally balanced? If I did all those things and still lost money, I'd give myself an A. If I made money but violated my rules, I'd give myself a C or D. This shift in perspective was revolutionary. It took the focus off outcomes, which I couldn't control, and put it on process, which I could. Over time, something remarkable happened. As I racked up more and more days of disciplined execution, my confidence began to return, not because I was winning every trade, but because I was proving to myself that I could be trusted. I was showing myself that I had the discipline to follow my system, even when it was hard, even when I didn't feel like it, even when every instinct was screaming at me to do something different. And gradually, the wins started to come. Not because the market had changed, but because I had. I was trading from a place of clarity and discipline instead of desperation and emotion. I was taking only the highest probability setups. I was managing my risk properly. I was cutting my losses quickly and letting my winners run. And the results reflected that transformation. This rebuilding phase taught me something profound. Trading is a skill that can be developed, refined, and mastered. It is not about luck or talent or having some special gift. It is about discipline, patience, and the willingness to do the hard work of self-examination and improvement. Anyone can learn to trade well if they're willing to put in the work. But most people aren't. Most people want the shortcut, the secret system, the easy money, and that is why most people fail. 4. Master the mental game now. Let's talk about the mental game, because this is where losing streaks really do their damage. When you've been beaten down by the market, it is not just your account that suffers. It is your identity. You start to wonder if you ever had what it takes in the first place. You look at other traders who seem to have it all figured out, and you feel like a fraud. You wake up in the middle of the night, replaying your mistakes, feeling that sick weight in your stomach. I've been there more times than I can count. But here is what I figured out. The market doesn't care about your feelings. It doesn't care if you are scared or confident or angry or hopeful. It just moves. And if you are going to survive in this business, you have to develop the same attitude. You have to separate your ego from your trading. Your worth as a person has nothing to do with whether you made money today or lost money today. Nothing. This was one of the hardest lessons I ever learned. I used to tie my entire sense of self to my success in the market. When I was winning, I felt like a king. When I was losing, I felt like nothing. And that emotional roller coaster nearly destroyed me. It wasn't until I learned to detach, to see trading as a skill I was developing, not a measure of my value, that I started to find real stability. So, how do you do that? How do you stop taking losses personally? First, you accept that losses are part of the game. They're not failures. They're not proof that you are incompetent. They're just data. Every loss teaches you something if you are willing to learn. Maybe it teaches you that your timing was off. Maybe it teaches you that your risk management needs work. Maybe it teaches you that you are still trading emotionally. Whatever it is, there is value there, but only if you are humble enough to look for it. I started thinking of losses as tuition payments. I was paying the market to teach me. And the more I lost, the more expensive my education was, but it was an education nonetheless. Every mistake, every bad trade, every blown account, they were all lessons. And if I could extract the lesson from each one, then the loss wasn't wasted. It was an investment in my future success. This mindset shift was crucial. Instead of beating myself up over losses, I became curious about them. What could I learn from this? What did this loss reveal about my thinking, my emotions, my system? This kind of curiosity takes the sting out of losing. It transforms failure into data. And when you see losses as data rather than as judgments on your worth, they become much easier to handle. Second, you stop comparing yourself to others. There will always be someone making more money than you, someone who seems to have it easier, someone who never seems to lose. So what? Their journey is not your journey. Their wins don't diminish yours, and their losses don't excuse yours. The only person you are competing with is yourself. Are you better today than you were yesterday? Are you more disciplined, more patient, more consistent? That is all that matters. I learned this the hard way. Early in my career, I was constantly looking over my shoulder at other traders. I'd hear about someone who made a killing on a particular stock, and I'd feel envious and inadequate. Why didn't I see that opportunity? This comparison game was poisonous. It kept me focused on what I didn't have instead of on developing what I did have. Eventually, I realized that the traders I admired weren't thinking about me at all. They weren't concerned with how their success compared to mine. They were focused on their own game, their own development, their own edge. And that is what I needed to do. I needed to stop worrying about what everyone else was doing and focus entirely on becoming the best trader I could be. Third, you build your confidence outside the market. I found that when I was in a losing streak, it helped to focus on other parts of my life, things I could control, things that reminded me I was capable and strong. Maybe that is spending time with people who care about you. Maybe it is working on your physical health. Maybe it is learning something new. Whatever it is, don't let trading be the only thing that defines you, because if you do, every loss will feel like the end of the world. I took up physical exercise during one of my worst periods. Every morning before the markets opened, I'd go for a long walk. The physical movement cleared my head. It reminded me that I had a body, not just a mind constantly churning over trading decisions. And there was something deeply satisfying about the simplicity of it. Putting one foot in front of the other, breathing fresh air, feeling my muscles work. It was a realm where effort directly translates to results. Walk for an hour, feel better. Simple. Trading isn't like that. You can do everything right and still lose. But physical exercise doesn't lie. And that consistency, that reliability helped ground me during a time when the market felt chaotic and unpredictable. I also reconnected with old friends who had nothing to do with trading. I'd let those relationships slide during my obsessive pursuit of market success. But when I reached back out, I found something surprising. They didn't care about my trading results. They cared about me as a person. We'd talk about books, politics, life, everything except stocks. And in those conversations, I remembered that I was more than just a trader. I was a human being with interests, relationships, and value that had nothing to do with how much money I made or lost. And finally, you have to develop what I call selective memory. Yes, you need to learn from your mistakes, but once you've learned the lesson, you have to let it go. Don't carry every loss around with you like a weight. Don't let past failures poison your future trades. When I step into the market, I am not thinking about the money I lost last week or last month. I am thinking about right now, this setup, this opportunity. That is the only thing that matters. The past is gone. The future hasn't happened yet. All you have is now. This was perhaps the most difficult mental skill to develop. Our brains are wired to remember threats, to hold on to painful experiences as a way of protecting us from future harm. But in trading, this natural tendency becomes a liability. If you are carrying the memory of every loss into every new trade, you'll be paralyzed by fear. You'll second-guess yourself. You'll hesitate at exactly the wrong moment. I had to train myself to wipe the slate clean each day. What happened yesterday is done. It is in the books. I've learned whatever lesson there was to learn, and now it is time to move forward. This doesn't mean ignoring your mistakes or failing to learn from them. It means processing them, extracting the value, and then releasing them. Don't let your past losses become a ball and chain that drags you down. I developed a ritual to help with this. At the end of each trading day, I'd review my trades, note my lessons, and then I'd literally close my journal and say out loud, "That is done." It was a physical and verbal signal to my mind that we were moving on. Tomorrow was a new day, a fresh start, a blank canvas, and I'd approach it with curiosity and readiness, not with the baggage of yesterday's mistakes. If you can train your mind to operate this way, to stay present, to stay detached, to stay focused on the process instead of the outcome, you'll find that confidence starts to return naturally. Not all at once, not in some dramatic transformation, but gradually, steadily, like the sun rising after a long night. You wake up one day and realize that you are not afraid anymore. You are not questioning every decision. You trust yourself again, and that trust earned through patient work and honest self-examination is unshakable. It is not based on a hot streak or a big win. It is based on knowing that you've done the work, that you faced your demons, and that you've come out stronger on the other side. 5. Trust yourself again. So, here we are. You've stopped trading. You've done the hard work of analyzing your mistakes. You've rebuilt your discipline through small, controlled trades. You've worked on your mental game. And now you are ready for the final step, trusting yourself again. This is the moment where everything comes together or falls apart. Because no matter how much preparation you've done, no matter how solid your system is, there will come a time when you have to pull the trigger on a real trade with real money on the line and trust that you won't fall apart. That moment is terrifying. I know it is. I've stared at the ticker tape with my finger hovering over the order button, feeling that old fear creep back in. What if I am wrong? What if I lose again? What if I am not ready? But here's what I learned. You are never going to feel completely ready. Confidence isn't the absence of fear. It is the willingness to act in spite of fear. It is knowing that you've done the work, that you've prepared as well as you can, and that whatever happens next, you'll handle it. After all, you've survived every losing streak you've ever been through. You are still here. That is proof enough that you can do this. When I came back from my worst losses, the ones that left me broken, I didn't come back guns blazing. I came back quietly, methodically, with a deep respect for the market and a deeper respect for myself. I took my first trade and it won. Then I took another and it lost. And you know what? I was okay because I'd done the work. I'd followed my rules. I'd managed my emotions. The outcome didn't define me anymore. My process did. That is the secret. If there is one, it is not about never losing again. You will lose. That is guaranteed. But it is about knowing that you can lose without losing yourself. It is about knowing that setbacks are temporary, that every losing streak eventually ends, and that as long as you stay disciplined, stay patient, and stay true to your system, you will find your way back. Let me tell you about one particular comeback that taught me everything I needed to know about trust. I'd been wiped out, completely broke. I had to borrow money just to get back into the game. The pressure was immense. I knew that if I failed again, I might not get another chance. Every trade felt like life or death, but I'd done my homework. I'd analyzed my mistakes, rebuilt my discipline, worked on my mental game, and when the right setup appeared, I took the trade. My hands were shaking. I could feel my heart pounding. Every tick of the tape felt like it was judging me, testing me, asking, "Do you really have what it takes?" The stock moved against me initially, and that old panic started to rise. But then I remembered everything I'd learned. I remembered my rules. I remembered that one trade doesn't define me. I remembered that I'd prepared for this exact moment. I held my position according to my plan. I didn't panic. I didn't override my system. I just followed my rules. And the stock turned around. It started moving in my favor, and then it kept going. And by the time I closed that trade, I'd made back a significant portion of what I'd lost. But more importantly, I'd proven something to myself. I'd proven that I could trust myself under pressure, that all the work I'd done wasn't just theory. It actually worked. That trade wasn't special because of how much money I made. It was special because of what it represented. It represented the culmination of months of hard work, honest self-examination, and disciplined practice. It represented the transformation from a desperate emotional trader into a calm, professional speculator. And that transformation, once achieved, became permanent. I'd crossed a threshold. I'd become someone different, someone better. I've made and lost fortunes more times than most people can imagine, and every single time I came back stronger. Not because I was lucky, but because I refused to let the market break me. I refused to let a losing streak define who I was. And I learned slowly and painfully that it is against yourself, against your fear, your impatience, your ego, your desperation. The market is just the market. It moves up, it moves down, it presents opportunities and takes them away. It is neutral. It doesn't care about you, but you care about you. And that is where the real work happens. Can you master yourself? Can you control your emotions? Can you stick to your discipline when everything in you wants to abandon it? Can you face loss without being destroyed by it? Can you face success without being corrupted by it? These are the questions that matter. If you can win that battle, you can win in this game. Not every day, not every trade, but over time with consistency and discipline, you'll come out ahead. And more importantly, you'll come out as someone who has been tested by fire and forged into something stronger. You'll have the kind of confidence that can't be shaken by a bad trade or a losing streak because it is not based on outcomes. It is based on character. It is based on knowing who you are and what you are capable of. So if you are in the middle of a losing streak right now, if you are feeling beaten down and hopeless, I want you to hear this. You are not finished, not even close. This is just part of your education. The market is teaching you something right now. And if you are willing to listen, really listen, you'll come out of this a better trader and a stronger person. Take your time. Do the work. Rebuild yourself from the ground up. And when you are ready, step back into the arena with your head held high, knowing that whatever comes next, you can handle it because you've already survived the worst. Everything else is just noise. The journey from devastation to redemption isn't a straight line. There will be setbacks. There will be moments when you doubt yourself all over again. There will be times when you wonder if all this work is worth it. But I am telling you from someone who has walked this path more times than he cares to remember. It is worth it. Every painful lesson, every moment of self-doubt, every small victory along the way, they all add up to something profound. They add up to mastery, not mastery over the market. No one ever truly masters the market, but mastery over yourself, and that is the only kind of mastery that matters. When you emerge from this process, you'll be a different kind of trader. You won't be reckless or desperate. You won't be arrogant or careless. You'll be steady, disciplined, patient, and wise. You'll have the scars to prove you've been through the fire, and those scars will remind you every day of what it costs to become who you are. They'll keep you humble. They'll keep you sharp. They'll keep you from ever taking this game for granted again. And that is when trading becomes more than just a way to make money. It becomes a practice, a discipline, a path of continuous growth and self-discovery. Every trade becomes an opportunity to apply what you've learned. Every win becomes confirmation that your system works. Every loss becomes another data point, another lesson, another chance to refine your approach. And over time, you develop something that most traders never achieve. Consistency, not perfect consistency. That doesn't exist. But a reliable, sustainable approach that allows you to participate in the markets with confidence and clarity. This is what I want for you. Not just to recover from your current losing streak, but to use it as a catalyst for transformation. to let it break you down so you can build yourself back up stronger, to let it teach you lessons that will serve you for the rest of your trading career, to let it forge you into the kind of trader who can weather any storm, who can face any challenge, who can survive and thrive no matter what the market throws at you. Because that is what separates the professionals from the amateurs. The amateurs think trading is about finding the right system, or the hot stock, or the perfect indicator. The professionals know that trading is about self-mastery. It is about developing the mental and emotional resilience to execute your plan consistently over time. It is about building the kind of confidence that comes not from winning but from knowing that you can handle whatever comes, win or lose. So take this moment seriously. Take this losing streak seriously. Don't waste it by trying to rush back into the market before you are ready. Don't squander this opportunity for growth by blaming external factors or making excuses. Own it, learn from it, use it. Let it be the foundation for everything that comes after. Because I promise you, if you do the work, if you commit to the process, if you rebuild yourself the right way, you'll come back from this, not just recovered, but transformed. And that transformation will serve you for the rest of your life. Now go rebuild yourself. The market's waiting, but more importantly, your future self is waiting. The trader you are capable of becoming, the person you are meant to be. That version of you is on the other side of this struggle, and the only way to reach them is to walk through the fire, do the work, and trust the process. If this video resonated with you, I'd love to hear which part hit home the most. Drop it in the comments below. Was it the importance of stepping back and letting your emotions settle? The brutal honesty of analyzing your mistakes? The mental game of separating your identity from your results? Or the final act of trusting yourself again? Let me know. And if you are serious about mastering the mental game of trading, make sure you subscribe and check out our other videos. There is a lot more wisdom where this came from. Hit that like button,